I want to start by reminding everyone what the Epstein files were to the MAGA faithful. Bongino built a career on this. His podcast was on iHeartRadio, just like ours is. His constant banging of the drum. These files have revelations that must be exposed. Jeffrey Epstein, a reputed and high-profile horror show when it comes to the abuse of these women and trafficking these women, has overlap with very powerful people, and the government doesn't want you to know it, is what Dan Bongino was saying. And he wasn't alone. A lot of MAGA faithful were saying that, and the conspiracy theorists suggested the reason we're not finding out about this is because of the deep state. Laura Loomer was in there with that. And now she is even on, I would say, footing that doesn't put her in the same camp as Donald Trump. Trump wants to keep the lid on the Epstein files. Here's a little bit of Bongino and friends before they got into power.
The Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is that. I mean, there's.
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
What a difference a few weeks makes. One thing to note is that Donald Trump was a good friend of Jeffrey Epstein for years. The two were these kind of playboys, international playboys, rich guys. That's really all Donald Trump is still, right? He's an international playboy. He never was a successful businessman. He finally got the presidency, and now he's been able to enrich himself. Now he's a legit billionaire. But all I'm saying is, and this isn't a hate on Trump thing at all. I'm just suggesting that it was an odd demand from MAGA, given the fact that you knew Donald Trump and Epstein were such good friends for so long. I mean, surely they hung out, they flew together. Epstein and Trump, Epstein called Trump his best friend.
Sure.
So all I would say is that now you guys are in power. And of course, when you look at the Epstein file, you're going to see Trump everywhere because he was everywhere with Epstein. I'm not saying Trump did anything, but I do know he hung out with a guy. There's video of that, and there is demonstrable evidence of that. So MAGA world wanting it released, knowing that Trump's footprints are everywhere with Epstein, is already an odd ask, but it's too late because they all built these careers and so much momentum politically based on the fact that we're the transparent ones. We're going to come into power, and we're going to share with the American people what the deep state didn't want you to see. So JFK, MLK, Jeffrey Epstein, all of that, project, whatever it's called, what is that, Area 51, or whatever it is, Tony? We're going to show all the UFO information. It's all coming forward. I'll just remind you, and then I'll give you the reaction just this weekend. I'll just remind you that this whole Epstein thing happened when Donald Trump was president the first time. So you could have released the Epstein files already during President Trump's season 1. Then it went through Biden, wasn't released. That was when these guys really picked up some steam. The Bonginos of the world, the Charlie Kirks of the world, the Megyn Kelly. And then Trump's back in power, season 2, and he really is swimming away from the release of these materials. So let's look at the reaction. This was the Epstein reaction when Donald Trump was confronted with it this past week during a meeting at which Pam Bondi picked up the baton of, there's nothing to see here.
Just interrupt for 1 second. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
And of course, Bondi then went on about there's nothing to see here. There's no here. And the reaction was strong. Here is a little bit of how MAGA world was reacting to all of this over the weekend.
How many of you are not
conservative conference? Go ahead. I was just talking.
satisfied with the results of the investigation?
That's Laura Ingraham, I guess, is who this is. I'm identifying it for the people just listening and not watching. Go ahead.
What I'm getting at is at some point we want
Charlie
answers
Kirk.
at some point.
Yeah, answer the questions. That's
Like,
it. Who went to
Talking to
Epstein
Megyn
Islands?
Kelly.
Who specifically went on the plane? Who stayed for more than a night?
I don't think they're telling us the truth about Epstein. I think that guy was involved in something nefarious that
Brandon
implicates a whole lot of people.
I will not rest until we go full Jan 6 committee on the Jeffrey Epstein files and every single client that was associated with this thing has an FBI agent at their door on their phone going after them the same way they went after the Jan 6ers.
Yeah. So you can see that the jihad continues, you know. Those are all people who want the information released. And by the way, those influencers were given by Pam Bondi those white binders that were supposedly filled with information about Epstein. And of course, it was all redacted. It was like what you do if you wanted to punk somebody. Remember that, you know, or like, you know, it's all redacted. There's nothing actually in there. It was really almost cruel because they were all posting. They were saying, this is it. The Epstein files, we've got it. Pam Bondi, she's released it. There it is. They're showing, thank you, Tony. They're showing these white binders. These white binders are filled with nothing but redactions. So now more on the reaction, this just over the weekend, to the fact that the administration is keeping the lid on this release of any materials associated with the Epstein case and the tough spot that Trump finds himself in politically. As I say, he's been able to thread every needle politically. He so clearly has a grip on so much of America, but this one presents some unique problems for him. Go ahead, Tony.
Be clear about this.
Chris
Pam
Christie.
Bondi, there's no chance, in my opinion, that Pam Bondi made this decision on her own. No chance. She was instructed by the White House that we're not releasing this stuff. And that's why he's defending her. And now he's at cross purposes, though, because when you bring in people like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are true believers in what Trump was saying prior to getting elected, they're saying, wait a second, we came here to do the transparency thing.
It seems to me that it wasn't so much Trump himself that was fueling the conspiracy theories. It was the people very close to him, his biggest supporters, people like Kash Patel and like Dan Bongino.
But John, wait a second. We cannot let the president off that easily. He benefited directly from it. He fueled it. He encouraged it. And he certainly didn't stop it. So, part of what bothers me in this context is that Donald Trump gets a pass. Oh, no, it wasn't him, it was somebody else. He took these people who were doing exactly what you just said and put them in charge of the people on the front line of protecting the American people from crime and terrorism and counterintelligence operations. He encouraged this, and by putting them in those positions, he supported the work they were doing.
Well, let me play what Trump said Tuesday at his cabinet meeting. When he's there at the cabinet meeting, Pam Bondi is just a couple seats away from him, and a reporter tries to ask Bondi about all of this, and Trump intervenes and says this.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah,
this guy's been talked about for years.
Yeah, so you can, but you got the. I thought that was, Christie, not a fan, but I thought he had good analysis there, and he is right that it's pretty hard to make up the playbook that doesn't end with the quarterback on everything being Donald Trump, particularly given the fact that Donald Trump is all over anything in any conversation related to Jeffrey Epstein, simply by virtue of his proximity. They were close all the time. So, of course, Trump has told Bondi to suppress it, and Bondi is being defended by Trump. That is the game. The question becomes, how damaging to this administration will this scandal? And it is a scandal. It's now, I think, achieved that tipping point. How dangerous and how politically damaging will it be? Now, Dan Bongino, who's the number 2 guy at the FBI, that's the guy who really handles things day to day under Patel. He is threatening to quit. He had an argument with Pam Bondi that supposedly was so agitated that they were shouting at each other. And Bondi and Patel may find themselves on adversarial footing. We'll see. But, these are hugely, I was just going to say, these are hugely problematic positions for Bongino to be in. Bongino built a career. I mean, I'm talking about millions of dollars and a lot of popularity and social media cred on the fact that we played you a bunch of it. We're going to release this stuff. This is a government cover-up, and the people need to know about it. And now he's part of it. Go ahead, Kim.
I guess I'm surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be, but it seems like regardless of whether they built up their careers talking about the Epstein files, that whenever Trump, so-called Teflon Don, says, about face, or here's what we're focusing on now, or here's what we're not going to talk about, or here's what we are, that everyone gets in line and says, oh, well, never mind about that, because Trump says it's not a big deal. Like, there's such blind faith among these MAGA faithful that I'm just surprised that something finally sticks, or that maybe this is the thing where they look at him and go, oh, he's not truthful about something.
Yeah, I think this is why this is such a big deal, for just the reasons that you have touched on, that normally everybody just falls in line and goes, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, waste, fraud, and abuse. Got it. And then they all sing from the same hymnal.
Whether it makes sense or not.
Right. And now they're in a position where they have been singing from a different hymnal so loudly for so long that they can't now change hymnals. I mean, really, just to extend the metaphor, they have truly been so vocal about the release of this information and about the transparency with which they are now going to respect the American people, that it's really hard to about face. And the whole idea that they've gone from, this is an incredible conspiracy, it extends over both parties, this is a deep state plot, and there's a lot of stuff to be revealed here, to go from that, and they pounded it every day, to there's nothing to see here. Gosh, the guy did commit suicide, and it turns out there is nothing. I mean, we wish we had something to share with you, but we don't. Come on, man. That's too big a turn. Plus, it's just logic. We know this guy trafficked women. We know this guy had any number of things that you could legally charge him with. I get that he's dead, but there is a file there of these horrors. And I think And you could probably, I would think, just based on the events that we know about, you can deduce that it involves both parties and people of power internationally, such that there is tremendous damage potentially in the release of this information. Otherwise, how would everybody, I mean, Patel, Bongino, Bondi, these are people who hammered away at we're going to release it, all of a sudden fall in line. It's, again, in my view, the Jeffrey Epstein story isn't the most important thing happening from the standpoint of government, from the standpoint of our lives, from the standpoint of international relations, from the standpoint of the economy. But from a political perspective, it's massive. And from this administration's perspective, it's massive because they're faithful in just the way that Kim has noted. They're faithful, who usually are on board. Yes, sir, of course, yes.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily going to take no for an answer. I want to talk to Dietrich about it because I think it's a big deal. But before I do, just let me ask you to smash the like button. That's a little bit of an overview.
With your
By the way,
iron rod.
I do want to get into immigration. I'll get into economics, all of that stuff later. But this is where we're starting because over the weekend, they were on blast. You know, they were on blast at that Charlie Kirk conference. Donald Trump wrote this on his Truth Social. What's going on with my, quote, boys, and in some cases, gals, he wrote. They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job in capital letters. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a, in capital letters, perfect administration. In capital letters, the talk of the world. Well, that's true. And, quote, selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, Crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers? And then this was a post on Truth Social, and Tony, he got ratioed on this on his own platform. Ginger McIntosh says Maxwell should ask for a new trial. This is Ghislaine Maxwell. Since according to the government, there is no evidence. Exactly. If there's nothing to see here, then I guess there's nothing to see here.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Ginger says, I just saw an interview with Michael Wolff. He said Donald J. Trump and Epstein were best buds for 15 years until Donald J. Trump. Well, we just ran that interview.
Yeah.
And I'll just finish it out. 15 years until Donald J. Trump cheated Epstein on a real estate deal and then dropped a dime on Epstein's house parties. I didn't know that second part about the house parties. But yeah, we ran a little bit of that interview just a few minutes ago. Moflo says, Ghislaine said she'll testify before Congress. I hope somebody's keeping a close eye on her. Yeah, she might, have suicidal tendencies. That'd be awful. There she is. She dated Jeffrey for a long time and then just became integral, apparently, to his operation. I use that in quotes. His horror show, which was really preying on underage girls and trafficking them all over the world. It was a horrible thing he was involved in. It seems as though there were many powerful men who are also party to this, aware of this, participants in this, and that's why this becomes even more complicated. And there may even be an intelligence connection. Of course, that's the conspiracy theory, one of them, that Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who you can look up, he died at sea, I believe. In fact, somebody looked that up. I'm pretty sure
Google it.
Ghislaine Maxwell's father died at sea. He was a publishing magnate. This is my recollection. And it was always suggested it's stated that, and of course everybody knows that he was a Mossad agent. Everybody doesn't know that. But it was oftentimes suggested in subsequent investigations that he might have been an agent for a foreign power, maybe the Mossad. Let's check in on the poll on the live chat. Who will resign first, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, or Kash Patel? Bongino, 76% think that he'll be first to resign. Pam Bondi with 18%, Kash Patel with 6%. Look, the one thing, I wonder if I can play it now on the way out. The one thing I wanted you to hear is the way in which they want Pam Bondi's head on a plate. MAGA has turned on Bondi. So it's interesting to me that in our poll, Bondi's only 20% think she'll resign first. And to be fair, Trump seems to have thrown his support behind Bondi, but MAGA, as reflected in the Megyn Kellys of the world, the Charlie Kirks of the world, they want Pam Bondi's head on a plate. Do you have that video from the Turning Point USA stuff, Tony? I think he's got it. I just want you, on our way out here, I want you to hear this one more time, because if something happens and the bounce hits Bondi and the world of MAGA hits Bondi sufficiently, Donald Trump, who has thrown all of his political capital, which is substantial, behind Bondi, all of his support is behind Bondi. She's clearly doing his bidding, right?
Right.
He doesn't want the stuff released.
I mean, in Trump's DOJ, there is no autonomy. It's now become just another arm for him to seek retribution. It's not this independent agency it once was. So she's just doing what he's telling her to do.
Yes, of course. Kim is exactly right, and she's a figurehead. And they want the head of that figure. MAGA does. Here is a little bit of Megyn Kelly. I want to play a little bit more from the Turning Point USA over the weekend, their conference. Go ahead. This is their Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida. So Megyn Kelly's on stage with Charlie Kirk.
Megyn, you're
They
here on a
get
slow
right
news
into it.
day.
Nothing's going on. Has anyone been on X in the past hour?
They're happy. That's why you know they haven't
That's
been
right.
on social media.
We'll update you.
Why don't you update them, Megyn?
Well, this is the first big scandal, I'd say, of the Trump administration that's on Team Rational. It's not a fake media scandal like the left tries to create for President Trump every other day. It's one of the right's own making, and it's not going well. And it has to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Let me just ask you, make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
Everybody cares.
A lot. I said a lot. Every hand.
Here's what I think is happening. I don't think President Trump is focused on this. He's focused on a lot of other things which are going great, and he needs to be focused on those other things. Jeffrey Epstein's not the most important thing on his agenda by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he's crushing it on the tariffs, foreign policy, just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. If not Trump, then who? Honestly. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after 9 months in office. He had done nothing. He gave a nice speech about Muslims, and they gave it to him. So President Trump should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's all sorts of things he's focused on. I just don't think this has captured his attention quite yet. But it needs to, because it's starting to create a real hornet's nest within the administration. And I've got to be honest, I blame Pam Bondi.
That's what I wanted you to hear.
I'll tell you why, okay? I have nothing, yes, incompetence, yes. I have nothing against Pam Bondi as a human being. I was fine with her nomination and her confirmation, and she's been loyal to the president, and I get that President Trump needs a loyal attorney general. Look what happened with Sessions the first time. He went away, and then the next thing you know, we had the Mueller investigation, and it was a nightmare. But there are a lot of other people who can be loyal and competent in that job. Here, she is the reason that things are unraveling around this story right now that virtually all of the Republican Party cares deeply about. It's also true that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel had questions about Epstein before they took office, okay, before they went into the FBI. But once they joined the FBI, they said nothing. They've kept their mouths shut about Epstein. You have not seen them, except for one joint appearance with Dan and Kash on Fox, running all over the media looking for attention on this, yes, clickbaity story. Who have you seen? Pam Bondi. She has never missed an opportunity to go on television and dangle sweet nothings that might be coming your way. Try to lead you to believe that she's got it, it's on her desk, it's coming tomorrow, you're gonna see something on Epstein. And it was a tease. So you either believe that Pam Bondi was telling the truth then, or that she's telling the truth now, but both cannot be true. She was either lying when she went on Fox News all those times saying, I've got it, we're looking at it, wait until you see it, it's horrible. Or she's lying in her 2-page memo that they released on a Sunday night at the tail end of a holiday weekend to Axios, as if Axios is where we all go for our news. Hell no. She went to someone she knew would not kick the tires on the story, and without signing the memo, dropped it in the dead of night and said, that's it, take the crumbs and be happy. refused to come out and give a and give a press conference, stand there for 6 hours to the point where people are dying of boredom. They've asked all their questions. That's how you put a scandal to rest. But she wouldn't even sign her name to it. And I'm telling you, I have dollars to donuts. It's going to come out that there was internal consternation over that memo and whose name did and did not go on it and who it was and was not behind it.
Well, I'm sure that
and
there's
so now
stop for a second.
You have a situation.
But you can see it. I really wanted you to hear this before the end of the show. They want Bondi's head on a plate. And Megyn Kelly is just part of this MAGA movement. You know, oh, Trump's killing it on tariffs. Trump's killing it on everything else. Trump's killing it on immigration. And this idea, and he's not really focused on this. I love that whole spin. You're seeing spin and you're seeing a coalition forming behind this call for Bondi to be out. And yet Trump and Bondi, as Kim said, Bondi's just doing the bidding of Trump.
Yep.
And Bondi and Trump seem completely joined. A little bit more and then we'll finish up.
On it and who it was and was not behind it. And so now you have a situation where her words on the record on Fox News are diametrically opposed to what she put in this memo. She's embarrassed the president. She's embarrassed herself. And Dan and Cash, to the extent they've had to sign off on that, let's understand the FBI is controlled by the DOJ. FBI is subservient to DOJ. She's their boss. That they're in this position where the only comments they've made on the record as administration officials have been, we don't think he killed himself, and we don't think he got murdered. We think he did kill himself. We've looked at the tapes, and Cash to Joe Rogan saying, if I saw all these tapes of Jeffrey Epstein with little girls, trust me, I would show you, but I haven't seen it. Okay, so what they're saying now is consistent with what they've said since they joined the office, and that is one of the many reasons why this scandal is squarely on her. And I'm telling you, I'm of the cable news universe. I've seen it happen a million times. People get thirsty.
Yeah. That thirst will engulf Pam Bondi, and eventually Trump may have to throw Pam Bondi to the crowd. But this is a real problem, and I'm glad you could see a little bit of it play out. It's the thirst she's talking about is that they want something on Epstein. You cannot say nothing to see here and just keep walking. And so there's calls for a special prosecutor. I mean, Trump does not want a special prosecutor on this. He wants an investigation with a small I. He wants a fake investigation. If he wants anything, maybe that's the way they'll handle it. But one thing they won't do is impanel some real investigative body to look at look, you've got the FBI on this. You don't need any more investigative bodies. You've got the investigation. You've got the answers. You know what they are. And your crowd so wedded to this idea that it was a deep state conspiracy, they want the transparency that you promised. Trump, MAGA, etc. You guys run it. Now are you the deep state? It's wild. It's wild to see, and because this is going to happen, the way in which they'll try to somehow pin it on Biden, or the Democrats. But the Epstein scandal has extended over 2 administrations. Trump 1, Biden, and now Trump 2. So Trump, you have the power to release this stuff, and you're not doing it. And there's got to be a really good reason why. And I'm sure that there are powerful people on both sides of the aisle, GOP and Democrats, that are involved in this stink. And I'd also say it's an international scandal. Clearly, there are other things going on here besides just the sex and these high-profile political figures. And Trump, just to reiterate, last thing, super good friends with Epstein, not saying he was involved in anything bad. They were just rich playboys, maybe. But Trump was certainly an adjunct to Epstein for long enough that there's a lot of Epstein stink that's on Trump. And that's a problem for him. It's going to be a problem for him politically. And when it comes to your vote in the live chat, that's what really got me off on it. It got me thinking, yeah, you'd be surprised. Pam Bondi may be first to resign. But I think right now, odds-on favorite is Bongino, tries to scurry back to his podcast and get back to his big bang in life, talking about the deep state.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.